You are listening to The Witch Haven, narrated to you by Audiobooks with Keeper of Law Stories, Part 4, Chapter 10. I tell myself I won't sneak out again. I will be a good pupil. I will bide my time and bite my tongue and swallow my anger because I plan to learn magic and then leave and do something with it. I won't make the same mistakes as my mother. I refuse to live her life. I find myself thinking of her often, picturing what she looked like as she roamed these same halls. I stop at the photograph frequently, searching for clues in her defiant face. Did she have friends? What were they like? How did my father find her behind the tall walls of the school? Was he worth it? If thoughts of my mother consume me during the night, I think of my brother most at night. I dwell on the spell book. I wonder if speaking to him would bring me peace, or if seeing him trapped somewhere I can't reach would break my heart forever. Lena and Maxine notice me falling quiet at mealtimes but don't pry. They are trying to be kind, I think, but it only makes me feel more alone. Mrs. Lee's class becomes more unbearable. Every day I sit staring at the black walls of her classroom as she tries to pry the pain from my broken heart. I have never been comfortable living with grief like an open wound. The sepsis of it seeps through my veins, a pain deeply my own. I've never known how to let go of something this big, so I've clung to it instead. At least the pain reminds me William was real. I have no interest in releasing it to Mrs. Lee. I refuse to tell her my secrets, and I'm fairly certain she hates me for it. Every night after dinner, I go to my room and I practice my magic, because I can't bear not to, threading needles under the watchful gaze of Mrs. Roberts does not scratch the itch. I study the small magical textbook we are given during the practical applications and memorize as many spells as I can. The magic starts small. I make my bed with a wave of my hand instead of touching the blankets, or I flip a page with my mind. I tell myself I won't sneak out again, but I am a rotten liar, even to myself. If I am going to trek beyond the walls of the school, I want to be prepared. Progress is slow. It takes 3 days to magic a leather-bound book across the room. It takes another 2 to be able to unlatch and open the window, then close and relatch it with my mind. How quickly magic goes from awe-inspiring to tedious. I'm staring at a handful of hairpins, trying to levitate more than one, when Lena comes in early after dinner one night. "What are you doing?" she asked me. "Practicing." She pauses in the doorway for a moment, her eyes narrowed, then crosses the room and plops down on my bed next to me. "Get on with it, then." An orange cat I've never seen before slinks in the open door behind her and hops between us, nestling in the middle like we are all old friends. The cat lays her tiny head on my duvet and watches me fail. I don't have any success manipulating more than one pin at a time. Lena peers at me in silence as I try so hard. I give myself a headache. Lena snorts. We have been eating meals next to each other, but I haven't spoken much since the night in the woods. It's as if we are both so scared of what the book means for our future that we are putting off dealing with it entirely. I have been so glum, I can't imagine it's been easy to talk to me. Between the book, the notes on my bed, and my mother, I am in desperate need of a friend, but I am terrified of being a burden. I throw her a glance. "Any tips?" "I'm sorry, manipulation isn't my strong suit. I see you in class. You do just fine." "I'm capable of it, but it doesn't come as easily to me as it does to you." "Will you tell me what it's like to see the future then?" She scrunches up her nose. "It's like remembering something that hasn't happened yet." "Can you tell my future?" The question escapes my lips before I grasp what I am asking. She rolls her eyes. "I'm not a carnival act." "No, I'm sorry. I just meant I know what you meant. Besides, I can't control it like that. I see things I'd rather not more than I see anything of use. Like what? She sinks back into my pillows and takes a few breaths. Something bad is coming, she says rather calmly, looking up at the ceiling. A zip of adrenaline goes through me. Soon? Soon enough. A few years, I think. I hesitate to ask the next question, but I do it anyway. How bad is bad? She shakes her head. I've been seeing the same versions of the vision for a while. The land turning to razor wire and ash, the air into toxic fog. Sometimes I see my old classmates choking on it. It's a war, I think. But it's not like one I've ever read about. The room feels colder. My muscles are tense suddenly. I tug my cape around my shoulders, though it doesn't help much with the chill. How do you know the visions are real? She sighs deeply. The other clairvoyants are seeing the same ones. That's not good, I respond. No, not good at all, she says matter of factly. Is there a way to stop it? I don't know, but the others say that visions of danger and doom have plagued clairvoyance since the beginning of time, part of being who we are. But I intend to find my way home before the world goes to hell. Home? The Genesee Valley, a few hours from here. It's where my tribe is, my people, my parents. An awful part of me is jealous that she has someone to miss her, a home to dream about returning to. I hate my envy. I'm afraid to let myself love things anymore. I fear it's making me a subpar friend. Lena is silent for a moment. I am learning she is someone who considers her words carefully. Perhaps we are well matched. I leave this place as soon as I'm able. I'm not being good at cultivating relationships in the meantime. My heart is somewhere else. Will you tell me three things you love? I ask. Willem and I used to play this game. It's a relief to find someone else to talk to this way again. She thinks for a moment. Maple candies, romance novels, and my mother's cooking. You? Long baths, ice cream, and the rare occasion I win at cards. She smiles. Play you after dinner tomorrow? You've got to get out of this room. I smile too, and it feels real finally. Absolutely. She pops up from my bed and walks over to her own. One last tip, she offers. Don't let them catch you practicing. They don't mind you using the magic, but they don't like it when you get good at it. Why train us at all then? Women are supposed to be competent at everything, but experts at nothing. Haven't you heard? Her voice is thick with sarcasm, but the tiniest smile breaks through the gloom. Good night, Francis. Good night, Lena. I beg Maxine to let us examine the elemental, the spellbook she found buried in the park. But she tells me it's too risky. I'm beginning not to care about the risk. I grow more and more restless. It feels at times that my soul is trying to wiggle out of my body, using any cracks it can find, like a mouse in a tenement looking for warmth. One Thursday morning, I wake to another note. The folded square of parchment is resting on the pillow next to my head, bathed in the dawn light. I bolt upright and pick it up by a corner. It unfolds for me, revealing the same bold scrawl as before. Tonight, I'll be waiting for you in the woods that border the east field. You will not know me, but I will know you. We are on the same side. I am so desperate for something to happen. This time, I feel more relief than fear at its arrival. At breakfast, I sit next to Maxine, who sections a grapefruit with great concentration. Between bites of my sticky bun, I sigh heavily. Maxine pauses her work on the grapefruit to look at me. You're rather out of sorts this morning. I look at the frosting on my hands and nod at her. I did not sleep very well. Did the ghost keep you up? My eyes snap to hers. Are there ghosts here as well? She snorts. Not that I know of, but who's to say, really? That wasn't funny. Not to you. Is it possible to leave after dark again? I ask her. Maxine purses her lips. No. But she's chewing on her cheek and has a wicked glint in her eyes, so I have a feeling her answer is a half-truth. I could go alone. I managed it last time. Under the table, I pick at my nails. She rolls her eyes. You only partially managed. What is it that you're looking for, Francis Hallowell? Please, Maxine, please let us study it. I don't dare mention the spell book here with all the other girls listening. I also don't mention the new notes that have arrived. I have not spoken of them to Lena and Maxine since the first one, and they haven't asked. I know what their response would be. They would try to convince me it's a prank, or worse, they would try to stop me from trying to meet the note lever entirely. Perhaps, she says, and takes a slow sip of water. Please. It comes out more desperate than I mean it to. It has to be tonight. Tonight? She sounds surprised. I don't know if I can make arrangements that quickly. Then give me the key. Maxine rolls her eyes at me. It was a long shot. Please, Maxine, I struggle to keep an excuse that will make sense to her. I just need to be out of the school for a while. I'll do it alone if I have to. She pushes back from the table and stares at me. She knows I'm telling her the truth. I will find a way. Reluctantly, she sighs. Her eyes roam the room before she leans to whisper in my ear. At 8 p.m., meet me at the base of the staircase. Tell your roommates, all of them. You're going to wear holes in the carpet if you keep pacing like that, Ruby snaps. It's 10:55 p.m. and I have been circling the room for the better part of an hour. It was not difficult to persuade Aurelia and Ruby to join me tonight. A meeting cloaked under the secrecy of darkness is enough to lure anyone as bored as we are. But Lena is nowhere to be found, and it makes me nervous. I want to wait for her, but the fear of Maxine leaving without me stops me. It's October, and I throw an overcoat borrowed from Aurelia over my uniform, leaving my dark hair loose around my shoulders. Maxine is standing with all the high-headed grace of a queen at the base of the stairs. Not in uniform. She is wearing a man's white shirt tucked into riding trousers, a loose waistcoat and brown leather shoes. Her blonde hair bobs around in a loose bun on top of her head. Maxine is beautiful in the way boys are allowed to be, in a way that feels like defiance instead of a performance. Surrounding her are 8 more girls, among them Mabel, Sarah, and Cora. Some are still in their uniforms or states of partial uniform like me, while some are in clothes from home. Right when I think she is not coming, Lena strides over from the sunroom, shooting me a look that lets me know I'm toast if this all goes sideways. I believe some of you are acquainted, Maxine announces as I join the group. She gestures around the circle. Frances, Lena, Sarah, Cora, Mabel, Maria, Aurelia, Ruby, Rekha, Emily, May, and Alicia. I don't know Alicia, Emily, or Maria, though I have seen Maria hanging around Maxine before. While the rest of the girls make small talk, I sidle up to Maxine. Are you going to explain to me why I had to invite Aurelia and Ruby along? We need 13, she replies with a shrug. Why 13? From what little English is in this book, I gather it takes 13 to make a coven. Coven? The word alone is a thrill, but 13 will make keeping this a secret difficult. Where are we going? Lena asks. To the Boluka, Maxine says with a wicked smile. Is that allowed? Aurelia asks as we creep closer to the door. A rumble of agreement ripples through the group. For tonight, yes. Fear not, little chickens, and follow your mother hen. Maxine trolls. I believe it's time we had a little fun. Slung over her shoulder is a leather satchel, and our parade contains the book I can't stop thinking about. She leads us through the entryway and out the front doors into the cool evening, skipping and prancing, waving her arms a bit in the air. There are no staff members to stop us. No Helen on patrol. The entryway and porch are empty save for the 13 of us. A familiar thought nags the back of my mind. It shouldn't be this easy. But it feels good to brush away the voice in her head when it says things you don't want to hear. Maxine skips down the lane leading up to the school, and we follow her like she is the Pied Piper and we are the children of Hamelin. She pulls the skeleton key out, unlocks the gate, and the 13 of us spill into the park, a plague of girls. The Blockula, she sings, and I notice now some of the girls who have been here a long time, like Maxine, have joined her. We are going to the Blockula. We follow a narrow dirt path through tall oak trees. In the daylight, we might have passed a few families, babies in prams, old women walking arm in arm. But in the dark, there is no one to give us disapproving glances. The path opens out into a large lawn, completely devoid of people, with its browning grass and dying purple asters returning to the wet fall earth. It looks like a cursed kingdom from a fairy tale. The sky is dark and clear, bathing the meadow in silvery light from the wash of stars overhead. Maria throws her hands up in the air, delighted, and yells, "The Blockula!" Lena speaks up first. "This is absurd. What is the Blockula?" "Oh, my dear Lena, I'm so glad you asked," Maxine replies, hands on her hips, the commitment to theatrics unwavering. "The Blockula is where the devil holds court with his mistresses, and tonight we are his mistresses." She does a twirl and releases her hair from its pins, sending it in a cascade down her shoulders. Lena and I both sheer laugh at the show Maxine's putting on, but Aurelia's whisper is genuinely frightened. "The devil?" "Come, come, my dears." Maxine skips farther out into the field, swinging her leather satchel as she goes. The group is skittish, all darting eyes and worried faces trailing behind Maxine and Maria. I'm not sure what I pictured sneaking out to look like, but it certainly wasn't this. Directly in the center of the meadow, Maxine drops her satchel and demands that we all gather round. "Dear sisters, old and new, tonight we honor our pars, our sisters, and our foremothers, the witches who came before us." She reaches down into her bag and pulls out bottle after bottle of communion wine, whiskey, and something clear in a glass kitchen jar. "Let us toast." She pulls the cork on a dark green bottle of wine and takes a hearty swig. "To magic," she says, raising the bottle to the sky before passing it to Ruby next to her. Ruby too takes an enthusiastic swig. "Isn't your mother the president of our Women's Christian Temperance Movement chapter?" Aurelia asks, scandalized. "My mother is a cow." Ruby tosses her corn skill hair over her shoulder before taking another swig and passing the bottle to Aurelia beside her. Aurelia takes a smaller swallow, poorly disguises a grimace, then passes the wine on to the next girl. Some of the girls make toast to our mothers, or maybe never grow old, or simply salute. Soon the bottle makes its way around the circle to me, its dark red contents severely diminished, slosher on the bottom. Lena looks over at me. I raise the bottle to my lips and take as big a swig as I am able. It tastes a bit like grape juice gone bad. The burn is worse than the taste. I can't stop my eyes from flitting to the edge of the field. The note left on my pillow said only tonight. I am still not sure how to break away from the other girls. Being here with them is giving me the first taste of joy I've had in a very long while, but I haven't lost sight of my true mission. Maxine has more in her bag than just alcohol, and after she's satisfied that everyone's veins are buzzing, she dumps her bag on the ground, sending objects spilling. Strewn in a heap on the damp grass are black taper candles, pewter candlesticks, gold coins, and crystals. There's even a single pomegranate sitting red and waxy next to a paring knife. And there, amongst all of it, looking ancient and heavy, is the spell book. "Who is ready to do some real magic?" she asks us with a wolfish grin. A zip of excitement runs through me. Or maybe that's just the communion wine. "Where did that come from?" Sarah asks, eyeing the object with suspicion. She is not the only one. "My job does come with certain perks, my dear Sarah. When I was out fetching a new people a few months ago, I found this bounty on her mother's bookshelf, and I believed we needed the contents more than she did. Sometimes robbery is a decision made for the greater good." I'm relieved that she lied about the spellbook's origins. I don't know if she is lying about where she got the rest of it. With the confidence and clear instructions of a drill sergeant, she directs the 13 of us where to sit cross-legged on the drying grass. In the center of the circle of girls, she lights the candles and places them in a perfect pentagram. At each of the 5 points of the pentagram, she places an object. A clear crystal, a kitchen knife, matches, a chipped seashell, and a bottle of what's left of the wine. Matte smoke is carried away on a fall breeze. Next to me, Aurelia tugs her coat tighter. I have read through a good deal of the book this week, and I believe I have found a spell for us to practice with. Maxine stands at the head of the circle, eyes aloft, licked with flames from the candles. With a proud set of her jaw, she looks for a moment like Joan of Arc being burned at the stake. She opens to a page with diagrams of hands, a tangle of words, and a small sun. Maxine sets the book in the grass, places her hands in a prayer position near her heart, and recites the words from the page. Tianen mathar duin ar. She makes the bulky words sound elegant, and soon a dim globe of light, no bigger than a few inches across, springs to life in front of her chest. It winks out nearly as quickly as it appeared. My classmates scramble over one another, scrawling across the circle to get closer to the book. Mabel snatches the book off Maxine's lap. She says the spell once, and nothing happens. Black candles drip wax onto the damp ground. They flicker dimly, waiting like the rest of us. The second time she tries, there is only more silence. The rest of us wait with bated breath. When a light finally flickers between her hands after the third try, the entire circle gasps. Maxine shrieks. It's a shockingly un-Maxine-like sound. The other girls join in the celebration. The spell is exciting, sure, but I don't understand the near-frenzied joy of my classmates' responses. Why is everyone reacting so enthusiastically? I lean over and ask Lena. She pauses for a moment, then whispers in my ear. I think this is the first time we have created something from nothing. Ruby snatches the book next. It takes her even longer than Mabel to get the spell right, but she manages eventually. Her globe of light glows a little red, and still it comes and goes in a blink. On and on the girls practice, passing the book between them. Some get it right away, like Maxine, some take longer. It's a comfort to know they are as hungry for this as I am. No one can make the light last. The book finally lands in my lap. The word feels pointy and too big in my mouth. Dhyanan Matar Duina. I stumble. First, there is nothing. Then, from the back of my throat, the palms of my hands, my diaphragm everywhere, the power speaks and sparks away, and with it a small blinding sun held between my hands, hovering above the ground, shining as clear as day. The warmth is fleeting. Something inside me goes very still. I stare at the light until my eyes water. Then I shake out my hands and release the pressure in my chest. The movement lasts only length of a few heartbeats. Congratulations, Maxine says. On what? I ask. Your light came the quickest and burned the brightest. Oh, little witch queen. Her compliment makes my heart swell with pride. This is something I want desperately to be good at. I'm not yet sure who I am, but I could be this. Powerful, reckless. It's intoxicating. No one says it, but by the looks on their faces, I can see they understand. The magic we have been taught at school is small. It is magic that allows us to manipulate existing objects in small ways. To above all things be good girls, good wives and daughters. Some girls like Lena and Maxine are connected to the magic in a way that gives them the ability to see and feel things others can't. But this spellbook for the first time has given us all the ability to create. I don't want to be good. I want to create something, be something. After everyone has had a turn with the book, Maxine declares we have had enough fun and stashes it back in her satchel. Ruby tries to snatch it from her, but Maxine is quicker. The circle of the 12 of us erupts in protest, but Maxine points to the stars, cresting the horizon over the dark of tree line, and declares, We only have so much time left. Let's not waste it all on school. She pulls another bottle of wine out of her satchel before anyone can disagree with her. Cora takes a long swig and passes it to Maria. There are sparks in everyone's eyes. Girls scatter across the field, dancing and laughing and violently alive. The bottle makes its way to me. Sticky, sweet, acrid, and burning. It reminds me of the paint thinner the workers used last summer when Mrs. Carey insisted we spruce up the shop. A group of girls to my left begins a game of Ring Around the Rosie, and they grab my hand, pulling me into the fray. I forget to fall down at the end of the song, and Maxine shouts from across the field, "The instructions are in the lyrics, stupid!" I refuse to be so easily manipulated by a song, I shout back, as Cora side tackles me to the ground. The alcohol loosens our lips and our tongues, and my head begins to spin so badly. I stay on my back right there on the grass, the damp leaching through my coat. It would be easy to let myself slip away, nice even, to let the alcohol blur my thoughts to nothing and return to my warm bed. The ground is cold, black wax from the candles pools on dead leaves. Yes, it would be easy to slip away, but William would be so disappointed in me. Maxine, having crossed the field to sprawl out next to Lena and me, rolls over on her side and props herself upon an elbow, a storm cloud dark smile spreading across her face. It seemed like time you finally had some proper fun. Our lives don't only have to be classes and avoiding Vygotsky's withering stare. You had me fooled, I reply, staring at Maxine like the curious thing she is. A blurry around the edges kind of person, made up of equal parts affection and sharpness, the unwilling mother and mentor to all who come to Haxhaven under her wings. For the first time, I think about how lonely that must be. It's in this moment that I consider telling her I plan on meeting the note leaver tonight. There's a chance she'd understand, a chance she would help. But if she stops me, I might never find out who it is, and I'm not willing to take that risk. Aurelia joins us next, lying down next to Maxine, sporting a crown of small white flowers. She drops a matching one on Lena's head. Then, one by one, girls lie down with us, draping their loose limbs over friends, resting heads on shoulders and stomachs, lying out like a constellation. They laugh and talk about classes, things they miss about their pre-Haxhaven lives, and all the boys and girls they love back home. An image of Oliver standing in the morning sun floats into my mind, and I brush it away just as quickly as it came. Aurelia tells us about a cousin who knew a girl whose family made a fortune in steel. The girl was shipped over to England to marry a duke and live in a castle. Wouldn't that be dreamy? Aurelia sighs. To be a duchess? It sounds like a bore, to be honest, Maxine replies sharply. Aurelia offers a sad smile. Not to me, under her breath. I have no patience for tea parties, Maxine continues. I would like to move to Cairo and train Arabian horses and climb the pyramids. I'd like to be a nurse, I think, a girl to my left says. Alicia, I think her name is. Maybe help people who actually have tuberculosis. Hey, Maxine interjects. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Any one of us very well could have tuberculosis. Next to her, Maria dissolves into a fit of giggles. Well, I'd just like to marry a boy who really, really loves me. Aurelia sighs, eyes fixed on the stars. Duke or not. What about you, Francis? Maxine asks. What do you want to do when you're free of this place? I haven't given it much thought, to be honest. I always assumed I'd die a seamstress. Blake, Ruby quips. What do people usually do when they leave? I ask, recalling that I have asked this once before, when I first arrived at Haxhaven. But now I yearn for a more specific answer, one not clouded in ambiguity and cautionary tales. It depends on the girl and what she can do, Maxine replies. Some of the girls from wealthier families like Duchess Ruby here go home and marry a suitable fellow, only using their magic for basic household tasks, hiding their true identities for the rest of the days. You say that like money is some evil thing, Ruby replies, twirling a small ruby ring around her pinky finger. Not evil, just perhaps not the only thing, Maxine says, rolling her eyes. Some of the girls from worse circumstances use their gifts to start businesses. I know of at least 3 running wildly successful flower shops in the city. The clairvoyants can typically make a living as psychics, performing parlor tricks at parties. Manipulators are good at menial jobs. You can wash clothes and clean apartments in record time. See, Francis, you could very well still die a seamstress. A dream come true. A deadpan. And then there's us, sorry finders, The only good I can do is here at Hack 7, collecting girls from the greater tri state area and bringing them into our ranks. You may be destined to die as seamstress, but I'm destined to die here, she finishes sadly, her joking bravado cracking, to reveal the deep dissatisfaction within. I reach over to touch her hand. You are going to die on the top of a pyramid if I have to push you off myself. I'm overcome with sadness, not only for Maxine, trapped by her powers, but for all of us, similarly trapped by our circumstances and our magic and the terrible misfortune that befell us when we had the bad sense to be born female. Ruby could be a Gibson girl or a picture star like Mary Pickford. Her cruel smile and masses of blonde hair seem made for the stage. Instead, she is a tool to be used by her wealthy family to maintain status. I heard her speaking to Aurelia yesterday about her mother's latest letter. Her mother is speaking of getting a private physician to look after Ruby's condition. She's afraid the boy Ruby is supposed to marry, a boy drowning in railroad money, is going to lose interest if Ruby's tuberculosis doesn't soon resolve itself. Then there's Aurelia, so poisoned by expectations that she be sweet and good all the time, that she's had no space to develop any resolve of her own. Maxine could do anything she wanted, if anyone gave her half a chance, and she cared less for Hack 7. And Lena deserves every good thing in the world. She should be home, where she wants to be, instead of trapped within the walls of a school she never asked to attend. Though we are learning magic, we have been taught all our lives to remain small, and even here we seem to be in cages of our own making. Does it break their hearts too? So, Francis, seamstress it is? Maxine asks, tone joking. I want to use magic to help people, to protect the ones I love. I would like for this to matter. Hear, hear, she cheers, raising the bottle of communion wine to the sky. A few others join her toast, draining what little remains in the bottles. Well, we have had our fun, Maxine declares. Time to return to our humble home. We blow out the candles and carelessly shove the objects from the pentagram back into Maxine's bag. An awful part of me considers snatching the spellbook, shoving it under my coat, but I resist the temptation. And just as she led us in, she leads us out of the meadow, though we are significantly stumblier than before. The moon is full and bright, looking down on us from the middle of the sky. Desperation makes me daring. I haven't forgotten why I am here. It's reckless, stupidly so. But at least this is danger of my own creation. With buzzing in my head and iron in my veins, I take a breath and step off the path, break away from the chorus of girls ahead of me, careful to slip away undetected. I'm 2 steps into the trees when I hear the whistling. Chapter 11. The tune floats through the darkness of the forest so softly, I have to pause for a moment to make sure I'm not imagining it. It's coming from the left and up ahead, a haunting, jaunty tune that sounds like something my downstairs neighbor, Mr. O'Sullivan, would have played on his fiddle. The floors in my old building were so thin, I could hear everything. I hated how late he'd practice, especially since his playing got worse when he was a few glasses of whiskey deep. But I almost miss it now. The sound of the whistling pulls me like a tether deeper into the woods. I don't know if it's the alcohol or the magic pulsing through my veins, but I feel ready for this, for whatever I'm about to find. At the sound of my boots crunching through the underbrush, the whistling stops. Who's there? I whisper shout. The only answer I get is the footfalls of heavier boots, very much not my own. The pounding of my heart feels more like anticipation of the inevitable than fear. Hello? I ask the darkness once more. Still I receive no answer. Diana and Matar, Duina, I mutter clumsily. I'm not sure it's even the right spell. Nothing happens. The forest is very, very dark. The canopy of leaves blocks out the moonlight here, and it feels an entirely different world from the meadow I shared with my friends. Someone whistles a single low note. I can't tell how close they are. I curse and focus on the fluttering in my chest. Diana and Matar, Duinar, I command the magic one more. Responding to my words, an orb of blinding white light sparks to life between my thumb and forefinger before winking out. I'm surprised the command worked. I had not really expected it to. The whistling and crunching of boots stops. I look up, blinking away the spots in my eyes. A deep voice cracks the darkness. Hiya, Francis. The gasp that exits my body is as involuntary as the shriek that follows it. I stumble back a few feet, banging my ankle badly on a rock. Pain shoots up through my leg. I curse and force myself back upright. In the trees is a boy close to my age and devastatingly familiar, built like a wall, broad shoulders and muscle tone. Light brown hair falls in curls around his head, and under his eyes are deep bruise like purple shadows, visible here even in this low light. It's him, it's him, it's him, my brain sings. With heavy footfalls, he steps back a few feet and puts his hand up in front of his chest in a show of surrender. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to scare you, he says in a thick, sing-songy Irish accent. I'm not scared. He lifts the lantern he is holding to illuminate his face. He has the jawline of a statue and the kind of aquiline nose that's begging to be broken. He's just frightened me so terribly. I think seriously about doing it myself. It's him. He grins. Good. I'm sorry this was the only way for us to speak. I've never trusted snake oil salesman or boys whose grin are without reason. He steps forward 2 paces. I step back 2 paces. He extends his hand. I step forward to shake it because I don't want to be impolite. It is surprisingly warm and solid. I'm Finn Darcy. He quirks a reassuring half smile as he says it. We have met before. It isn't a question. He nods. I wondered if you'd remember. You were in my apartment. I'm confused. And now you're here? Why? William and I work together, he says like it explains anything. I remember you brought him drunk one night. William did not always know his limits. Yes, I know. I take a deep breath. Are you the one leaving the notes? Yes. He shrugs a hand through his curls and looks at the dark forest floor. I'm sorry it had to be this. But there was no way they were ever going to let the likes of me walk into that fancy school of yours. His lilting accent teases me. Or maybe that's just him. Then how are you getting the notes to me? Cat burglary, lock-picking, general brilliance. Confusion makes way to annoyance. And you could not have just met me in my room? Why make me trek all the way out here? Couldn't risk having your classmates run into me. Instead, I apologize. But why? Why leave the notes at all? His posture is casual as he shoves his hands in the pockets of his rough-spun work pants. 1 month ago, you waltzed into my head in a blood-stained white blouse with a pair of scissors in your hand. I remembered you from that night last winter. I knew who you were and thought you might need help. Before I can stop myself, I take another step forward. You are having the dreams too? I'm a walker. The wind picks up, sending leaves flying through the thicket and tangling my skirt and my legs. You say that like I know what it means. A swillower. I can enter dreams. Enter dreams? With all the magic I've learned about in the past month, I should be less surprised to hear that someone has been walking through my head. William was my friend. I wish I could have done more to save him. His face is open, honest. Despite my better judgment, I believe him. I plan to get justice for him. I've been waiting and waiting for someone to help me. My voice cracks. Finn cocks his head. William would have done anything to protect you. He's gone, so I figured someone else should probably try. I don't deserve a life of my own until I find who took his. It's a horrible thing to say out loud. It comes out more dramatic than I intend. Finn must not agree because he lets out a sad laugh. You think your brother would have wanted you to become a crusader? The sound of his chuckle makes me defiant. He would not want his killer to walk free. If you're so determined, at least let me offer you my protection. I lift my chin, hoping the words come out as sternly as I feel them. I intend to be so powerful, I won't need protecting. Finn smiles at me like he's proud of me. It reminds me so fiercely of my brother. It nearly makes me stumble backward. Maybe I can help with that too. One step at a time, and all that, he says. I'm dizzy with new information, or maybe it's just the wine. Did my brother have magic too? It's a big question to ask. It hurts to imagine my brother living a whole life I knew so little about. I'm angry at him for knowing about magic and not telling me. I used to joke that William could not keep a secret to save his life. Apparently, I was wrong. The feeling makes me both sick and furious. No, not a lick. He was an errand boy. It's a shame. My brilliant light of a brother deserved this so much more than me. This power should have been his. He continues. I saw your little group. The spells are barely working. I can teach you more than how to create a single spark of light. I can teach you how to use the book if you'd like. The book. The thought is thrilling, but I still don't know what to make of Finn's declarations. You were watching us? Watching us in the meadow, watching me at school, watching me in my dreams. There's a beseeching look in his eyes, like he's searching for something in me. If you're determined to learn, let me help you do it safely. Was the book your doing too? If he was breaking in to leave me notes, it wouldn't be horribly out of character to bury a book in Forest Park. His brows knit together in confusion. My doing? Did you bury it? I can't tell if you're pulling my leg or not. I'm frustrated. I know I must sound ridiculous. The first night I was supposed to meet you, I came, but we found only the spell book instead. Finn would have to be an incredible actor to fake the look of genuine bafflement on his face. Aye, that is strange, but it wasn't me. All the more reason for you to accept my help. A book that appears from nowhere is likely a book that is dangerous. Maxine's voice cuts through the woods and the ringing in my ears. Francis, she calls. Francis! I wish my head would stop spinning. I reach up and slap my face a little, hoping to regain feeling in my cheeks. Finn laughs, his face cast in moonlight and shadows. You all right there, love? Don't call me love. Sure thing, love. He has the nerve to wink. William taught me how to throw a punch. I wonder how upset he would be if I used his lessons on his friend. Francis? Maxine calls again. She's close and getting closer. A part of me is glad she's come for me. Another part wishes she'd go away so I could stay and listen to what it is Finn has to say. Come here, he says through gritted teeth. I step forward hesitantly. We are close enough now that I can feel the heat of his breath. Francis, is that you? Maxine calls. She is just outside the copse of trees we are hidden. We'll be discovered in seconds. Finn grabs my hand, pulls me to him, wraps his arm around my waist, and draws me so close I can feel the heat of his breath and his heart thumping out a steady rhythm beneath his shirt. His lips hover above mine. There was another spell in the book, I whisper. What kind of spell? His breath is hot. A resurrection spell. My, Francis, you are a dangerous girl. Maxine is coming. Her footsteps are mere feet away. But Finn is so close. I can see the flecks of green in his eyes, illuminated in lantern light. Can you help me do it? Yes, he breathes. It has to be soon. The spell said soon. Maxine bursts through the trees. Francis, there you are. We were worried. She stopped short at the sight of me in Finn's arms. I gather my bearings enough to shove Finn away from me. Her mouth forms a little O, her eyebrows raised. I didn't realize, she mutters. I've never seen Maxine at a loss for words. It's not, I begin to say, but she holds up a hand. Just hurry up, please. It isn't safe to be out here alone. I'll wait for you, and we can walk back together. She's angry with me, and I don't blame her. Finn and I are still standing too close. My shove did not make much of a difference. The warmth of his chest radiates through me. Meet me here 3 nights from now. It's heavy, this moment, whatever it is. How? It comes out as an exhale. You are smart, Francis. I'm sure you'll figure out something. He replies with another maddening grin. You'd best be going now. Your friend is waiting, and she is none too pleased with you. I did not mean to create trouble. I glance through the trees to where Maxine is waiting for me. my stomach heavy with guilt and dread and communion wine. I turn to Finn to respond, but he is already walking back silently in the direction from which he came, whistling the same haunting tune. Come on, Francis, Maxine shouts. Coming. I push through the branches to meet her. Her mouth is torn into a frown, moonlight glowing silver on her skin. That was exceptionally stupid, even for you, she says. It's not like that. As if I could possibly explain what it is like. Please, Francis, elaborate, because I'm positively dying to know. She throws her hands up in the air. Wind-whipped tendrils of her hair dances around her face. How did he even find you? She looks furious, the way I imagined Hera, Zeus's perpetually betrayed wife, to look in the stories William and I used to read when we were young. I had a brother once, Maxine. I'm just trying to figure out what happened to him. By kissing boys, she mocks. I told you it wasn't what it looked like. Leaves crunch beneath her boots. Even her steps are angry. I'm begging you to enlighten me. I weigh my options. Perhaps telling Maxine about Finn is short-sighted. There's still a chance she'd try to stop me from meeting him again. I don't think she'd rat me out to Mrs. Vygotsky, but if she truly believed I was in danger, I don't doubt she'd lock me in my room or barricade the doors. Plus, there's a tiny part of me that wants to keep Finn a secret. Someone just for me. Maxine's brows are furrowed, her sharp face both enraged and concerned. It's her concern that makes me relent. That, and I've missed having someone to share my secrets with. I sigh. I'll tell you everything, but not here. There's something about the spark that makes me feel itchy all over. Come along, Francis, she says, tugging me forward through the inky night back to Haxhaven. Maria has left the front gate unlocked for us. The massive double doors creak as we open them, but the foyer is mercifully dark and still as we step inside. We are the only ones foolish enough to still be awake after curfew. We creep through the front hall, careful to quiet our footfalls. Maxine gestures with one hand in a follow-me motion. Clouds must have overtaken the dim light of the moon, because it's as dark as sin in Maxine's bedroom. I reach my hand out through the impenetrable darkness, only to bump Maxine. Watch it, she hisses at me. Shh, I whisper back. We need to find a candle. And aren't you supposed to be a finder? She reaches through the darkness and raps me on the head. Go to hell, she snaps. The sudden sound of a match striking makes us both go still. We snap our heads around to see a shadowy figure sitting at Maxine's vanity, their feet propped up, as usual, as you please. After an agonized second, the figure lifts the match to the candle. It catches light and illuminates her face. Chapter 12. Well, aren't you two just waking snakes? Lena says. I sigh in relief. Jesus Christ, Maxine exclaims. What on earth are you doing here? You did not think that I was going to let you leave me out, did you? She replies, face awash in candlelight, still leaning back in Maxine's vanity chair like the queen of the castle. Her mouth is curved in a half smile, eyes glowing with the glee of seeing Maxine jump out of her skin. I would be hunched over laughing if I weren't clutching my own chest in surprise. The vanity where Lena sits is covered haphazardly in jewels as sharp as Maxine's eyes. Leave you out of what exactly? Maxine says, while pulling pins out of her hair. She throws one at Lena, who dodges it with a laugh. Maxine then reaches down to the hem of the man's shirt she is wearing and tugs it over her head. She isn't wearing a corset underneath. It's with confidence that I will never possess that she strides over to her wardrobe and throws on a silk dressing gown, while Lena and I stare at her in identical stunned silence. Oh, of all things we have done tonight, this is what scandalizes you the most? Grow up, she snipes. Now, Francis, please tell us, what is it you were doing with that boy in the park? Lena snaps to look at me. Well, Francis. She sounds impressed. Maybe. Or she's mocking me too. I sigh and sink down into Maxine's feather bed. Maxine sprawls out beside me. Lena rises from the vanity and joins us. His name is Finn. He was a friend of my brother's. Maxine jabs me in the ribs with an elbow. Don't you think I noticed you did not answer my question? Lena closes her eyes and massages the space between them. I think he's going to teach us. I turn to her. How did you know that? Lena's eyes blink open. The same way I knew you would be here. She taps the side of her temple with her pointer finger. Clairvoyant, remember? Maxine settles her head into the crook of Lena's neck. So this mysterious woodland boy is going to teach us what exactly? Lena thinks for a moment. I'd give anything for a peek inside her brain. I see the three of us with him in the woods. We have the spell book. It's night time. We are. She shakes her head, baffled or bemused by whatever she is seeing. We are smiling. We look happy. If what Lena is seeing is true, then the resurrection spell might be legitimate. I could speak to my brother once more. I'd do things much worse than sneak off to meet a boy for that. Maxine kicks my foot. I did not get the impression we were invited to. Seemed like a Francis-only affair. Who are we to get in the way of romance? I kick her back. Don't be cruel. That wasn't what it was like at all. I only met him once before tonight, a long time ago. I don't tell her about the way his hazel eyes and the set of his jaw sent a thrill through me. It's stupid to think of a boy that way at all when we have bigger issues at hand. If you want to come, I'm inviting you. I also don't tell them they are so much more important to me than any boy. That is what I really wanted. A warm bed filled with friends, with three identical hearts on fire, burning for something more than what we have been given. Lena gives a decisive nod. I'm coming. Maxine sighs and rolls over, nestling her head against my chest and laying her legs across Lena's. The three of us are tangled like a pretzel, like a single unit of being. You're both rather stupid, you know that, right? Lena scowls down at Maxine. You are telling me you don't think we have a right to learn more about our power? We have snuck out twice now. How difficult could it be to do it again? Helen's clearly a terrible patrolman. Lena makes an excellent point, I agree. Maxine purses her lips and lifts herself up, sitting straight and sure. If you tell anyone what I'm about to tell you, I'll skin you both alive, understood? Lena and I nod solemnly. Wygotsky thinks a little rebellion is good for a girl, so I have special permission to sneak out a few times a year. Tonight was a school-sanctioned outing. I feel more betrayed than I should have by Maxine's admission. I thought tonight was a gesture of friendship, and to find out it was little more than a field trip stings. But still, I know she burns for more too. What about the night we found the spellbook? I prod. That was a risk. I knew the faculty had a meeting that night, and were likely tipsy on brandy. It was luck more than anything. Getting out won't be easy next time. Lena seems less surprised. But you have a key to the gate in the wall. There has to be a way out, she prods. It's getting out of the walls of this mansion that's the problem, not the wall surrounding it. Maxine snaps, but there is a flicker in her eyes. Faint, but I can see it. There is a way, though. I press her. Isn't there? Lena sees us training with him. So there is a way. Not easy isn't the same thing as impossible. I'm learning that Maxine keeps her face in a carefully constructed mask of cool amusement, but it cracks when she's thinking hard about something. You can see it in the way her eyes crunch up in the corners. She is making that face now. We could try if it's worth it. To learn magic that does more than mend a dress. I'd face more fearsome creatures than Helen and Mrs. Wygotsky. Lena and I respond simultaneously. It's worth it. I'm back in Mr. Hugh's shop, cranking the wheel of my sewing machine, fabric passing softly through my hands. I know it's a dream because the shop is empty. No Mrs. Carey or Jess or Violet. No chatter drifting down from the apartment upstairs. I'm completely alone. The edges ripple, the light bends all wrong here. The chime of doorbell startles me. I should be less surprised to see Finn standing in the doorway, his curls hallowed in soft morning light. Hiya, Francis, he greets me. Are you real? I stop the turning of my right hand, and the ticking of my sewing machine quiets. As real as anything ever is. His hair has turned golden in the dream light. He looks like an apparition, a son of Zeus. That's not an answer. Having touched you makes this easier, us talking. I fall back on old habits, directing my attention to the garment I'm working on rather than meeting his gaze. It almost makes me want to laugh, the idea of pouring work into this dream dress until the garment comes into focus. It's a coat made of dark blue velvet. The life dies in my throat. So, 3 days from now, you coming to meet me? He raises his brows seductively like he's asking to call on me. I'm reminded of the errand boys, the sons and husbands of clients who would come into the shop to fetch orders and the way they would leer at me. Once a boy whistled at me as I handed him the dress I had worked all week on wrapped in tissue paper. I'd bet you look fetching out of the wool dress, he said, and my face went so red. The other girls in the shop teased me about it for weeks. I went home and took a bath so long. My fingers pruned as I scrubbed myself raw, like I could wash his gaze off my skin and down the drain. I could not. I still felt it crawling all over me as I slept. It does not feel like that with Finn. Sure, I'd like to sock him, but he smiles at me like I'm in on the joke. If you can talk to me in my dreams, why can't we practice magic here? I ask. Magic on the astral plane is different. The only limit of what is possible is what you can think to create. Real magic does not work like that. Go ahead, picture a flower blooming in your hand. I unfurl my palm, and in it sits a tulip, white in the middle and blood red at the edges of its fraying petals. See? Finn smiles. I've taken enough of Mrs. Roberts' needle levitation lessons to know magic does not feel like this when I'm awake. So you'll do it? You'll come train with me? He asks. The dream space is closing in on me. The voices of my roommates waking up filter in through the edges. I'll be awake soon. I'll try. The shop blurs in and out of focus. Before he can reply, Finn is gone, and instead I find Aurelia standing over me, shaking my shoulders gently. I blink my eyes open. It's time for breakfast, Francis. She whispers softly. In the corner, Ruby rolls her eyes. Hallowell can't handle her liquor, she says with a laugh. Get the hell out of bed and nurse your headache without complaint, like the rest of us. My stomach rolls and my head pounds fiercely. Leave me be, I mumble into my pillow. Aurelia prods me. Francis, we have to get dressed and head down to breakfast. Ruby buttons her cape around her delicate shoulders, while Lena plaits her hair in front of the mirror. Ruby is likely right, and I simply can't handle my liquor. But the idea of standing up makes me want to vomit, and surely that's a legitimate reason to miss breakfast. Francis, come on, Lena shouts. She too looks a little green but is putting on a brave face. I can't. Tell them I'm sick. It itches where each sweaty tendril of hair is plastered to my forehead. You heard her, Ruby says. She said to leave her. We have to make it to breakfast before those god-awful Underwood sisters eat all the sticky buns. The three of them walk through the door. Lena pauses for a moment and turns to me. Do you want me to stay with you? She offers. By her tone, I can tell there is nothing Lena would dislike more than playing nurse to me all day. But that only makes her offer kinder. No, thank you. Please go. She shrugs a little, then replies, Bring some water, before running out the door to catch up with the others. I'm too jittery to fall back to sleep, so I stare at the ceiling and think of my brother. When we were young, before my mother was too crushed by the weight of living to care for us, we'd sometimes go to the beach. William and I would sit, our chubby little legs sprawled out in front of us, and we would dig holes in the sand right at the edge of the water. It was a futile task. The sand would collapse in on itself, and William and I would laugh and laugh as the hot holes filled with seawater. There's a sinking pit in my chest now that feels like the holes at the beach my brother and I used to dig. Every time I think I've worked through some of the pain, new pain arrives. There's no bottom, just endless salt water and a hurt that does not end. Since his death, I've thought maybe if I found his killer, the pit in my chest would stop collapsing in on itself. Finn's arrival feels like my first real chance. I miss breakfast but make it to Mrs. Roberts' class on time. She hands me a small scrub brush at the door. It's magical dishwashing day. In between sudsing a plate and rinsing it, Lena passes me her textbook with a deliberate jerk of her chin. I flip the book open to find a folded square of parchment inside. I slip it into the pocket of my pinafore. It stays there, heavy, all through the rest of lunch, class, and dinner. There is no place at Act 7 where someone isn't watching you. Finally, after dinner, alone in our bedroom, I unfold it. Maxine's handwriting is sharp and small. Thursday night at 10 p.m. Meet in my room, MCD. The fat tabby, currently resting on Lena's bed, eyes me. Shh, don't tell, I whisper to it. I lower the note to the flame of the gas lamp on my bedside. My anticipation is as dark and wild as the smoke that rises from the burning parchment. To be continued. If you're liking this audiobook so far, please consider giving this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon with the part 5.